Right, I said I was going to spool some reels, didn't I? And that's exactly what I'm doing. See, the wife's got the Christmas decoration started, even in the kitchen. No room is safe. I don't mind, I'm not a Grinch. Right, so what I'm going to do, I'm not going to put new line on this reel. I'm going to put some line from that fixed spool over there. And what I've done, I'm just going to run it through the first ring like so. So basically, what I reel on from that reel to that reel, it will be probably line that's in a bit of water, but by the time it gets a quarter of that reel, it will be unused line. It'll be the stuff that was first on that reel, which is unused. Now this reel here, incidentally, just something I'll show you. I've got a nice little light rod to run it through because I don't want to hold a big heavy rod while I'm doing this. So any rod will suffice, but the original, I'm only going to go through this first ring. Now, most importantly, check that ring for any damage. If you're not sure, get a cotton bud, run it around the inside of it. Nice, and then if you feel any sort of, if you can't feel a nick with your fingers, the cotton bud will find it out. And what it does, it will nick little bits of fibre. And why that's important is, whilst braid is very strong, it doesn't like little sharp edges and bits and pieces, so you want to make sure there's no damage on the ring because it'll damage the braid. And if you're reeling a brand new spool or even good braid onto it, you don't want to be nicking it, causing any weaknesses. Now these spools here have got little holes machined in them that you can run the line through. Now I don't want to do that with braid because I'm not using any backing on this at all. I'm not going to use any mono backing, I'm not going to use any tape or anything like that. I'm just going to go straight around the spool. So as a consequence, give myself a bit of extra line off of the fixed spool to use. I'm just going to tie my general knot around the spool. So I don't want to go through these little holes that are machined in this spool. You can bring mono through that if you want, if you're doing a bit of backing. I don't want any backing. I've never really used it. I've never felt the need to use it. So what I'm going to do is just come around the spool and tie my usual general knot, which is you make a loop around the main line and you go inside that loop. If I'm tying a knot for fishing, it's a dozen times. This instance, it doesn't have to be quite as many. I'll get away with about 8 maybe. 2, 3, 4, 5. Bit finicky, but hey, 6, 7, 8. Well, look, I'm here now. Let's do the 9. Let's do the dozen knots. Not that I'm OCD-ish, but incidentally, if you get down to this knot while you're fishing with a fish on, something's wrong anyway. So that looks a bit scruffy, but by the time you pull the whole lot up, it becomes a very neat barrel. And then that barrel then is pulled all the way back down to the spool until it's tightened off on there. Now this is the key thing. The first few turns, I want a lot of tension, because I want to lock this in place. Now I can cut that tag end off. Don't have to, but I can lock that tag end. I can lock that off there. As I say, if you get down to this point on a reel, you're in trouble. Now, I've got enough tension on there. All I do, come out straight. There we go. So I just want to go, make sure my line isn't catching on anything. Now there's enough tension on that and enough weight on that rod that when I start to wind this on, initially I just want to create a bit of my own tension. Just want to create a little bit of my own tension just for the first few turns so it doesn't slip. Don't need many. Once it's done like that, there we go. And all you do, thumb it back and forth like so. As I say, there's enough tension on that reel to create what I need on here. I don't wet the line. I don't think you need to. really don't think you need to. Any of these things that have been said in the past that people have said you need to do, I don't find it. I mean, as long as you wind that on neatly. Now I'll stop for a second. That's neat enough for me. And so on and so forth. I won't show you the whole lot. It'll get a bit boring, no doubt, but you get the picture. And like you say, all I feel you need is enough tension just to make sure that goes on nice and tight, and obviously evenly. You don't want any uneven lumps and bumps on that. And that'll do me. And I'll fill that up to just below the lip there. You don't want it coming over the lip there, but if it comes over the lip, you're going to get great issues. I don't want it. So I'll probably show you when I finish spooling that, and you can see that line is looking actually pretty nice. It'll be what's left on there. Wouldn't have even seen the water, I doubt. Ideal. And it saves wasting that line off of there, because I'm going to re-spool that with new line, so it will save me wasting it, won't it? So here we have my brand new reel, my brand new rod, and my brand new braid, which I'm going to spool onto this reel. So I'll come through the first eye, because as usual, I don't really want to go through all of the eyes. It's unnecessary for what I want to do. Now, I haven't got this attached to the reel yet. I can do that in a moment. But I'm going to tie a slightly different knot on than I tied with the onto the multiplier. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to go around the spool like so, and then tie the good old-fashioned, trusted and reliable grinner. So it means going around my fingers to make a loop, and then going a dozen times inside that loop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, half a dozen, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then I'll pull that down like you do with this knot. So you just pull that down into a very lovely, nice, neat barrel. And this is the bit I did that's slightly different. You don't want to get confused with that line coming off of there, but this is what I do that's slightly different. So as you can see, let's get that main line out of the way, because that's what's getting a bit confused here. There we go, that's out of the way. So now what we're looking at is just that loop that I tied around there. Now all I'm going to do now is turn that around, do it again, cross it over again, cross it over one more time again. Now I'll do that one more time because I've got enough line to do it. So there we go, around the spool, and then you can pull that knot neatly down. Get my fingers on it, neatly down to the spool, all the way down to the spool, and that will lock that off. It really will. It'll lock it off. It doesn't need anything else. I've done this loads of times. Now if I pull that down tight, let me open that up again. Just to pull that down, it's not tight enough. I'm going to use my fingernail just to ease it right down. And there we go. Now that, believe you me, that is on there. I'm pulling that as hard as I can, and that isn't slipping. And as I said on the previous one, if you get down to the knot when you're fighting a fish, then you're in trouble. I can cut that tag in fairly neat. But those loops where I just went over and just tucked them into each other, it locks it on really nice and tight. So all I'm going to do now is flick the bail arm over, attach it to my rod, find somewhere nice for this to sit. Now you can have rules, you can buy spoolers that it sits on, and you can tension them up. I've seen people put them in pots with the lid on, with a little hole in the lid, and it comes through there. I've seen them do all sorts of things. If you've got a vise, you can get a piece of bar, threaded bar, put it through the middle there, couple of washers, and lock it on and create a bit of tension. The key is tension again. You want a fair bit of tension. You don't need a silly amount, but you need enough tension so when you're winding this on, obviously it's fixed spool, so it's going to lay it on itself, but you want there to be enough tension that it's not going to be loose on there. I don't particularly want it to be wet. People do wet the line. I think it swells a bit, and then when it dries, it's got a possibility of it making the coils loose. I've just found no need to do it, and in fact, I've done this all sorts of ways. I've had a pencil through there and someone holding it for me. I've run the line between a couple of yellow pages when we used to have yellow pages many years ago. It just needs something that's not going to damage the line. It's going to create just enough tension. In this instance, believe it or not, I'm just going to put that inside a pot that I've got, and it will just spin around inside the pot. Always label side up. Don't know if it makes a difference, but it works for me. And I'll probably show you what it looks like once I've filled that up. Again, if you can see the spool there, it just starts to taper. You don't want to go too close to that edge. You want it just off the edge of that spool if you can. Just off the edge of it, and that's lovely. So, line capacity for this one. Let's have a look. Look at that, it says Power Pro and all. So, 290 yards of 65. Well, there you go. I've got 50 there, so I should get well over 300 yards on there. Plenty enough for me, plenty. Right, let's get this wound on. So here we go. It's just in that part, stop it moving around. It doesn't tend to. I'm tensioning it with my fingers. Just enough, not too much. It won't burn my fingers because I just want enough tension. And here we go. Wind it on. Easy peasy. And there you go. Couple of minutes. Spooled lovely, nice and easy, no dramas, and it works for me. You saw me earlier spooling my reels, and the reason I'd done that is because that line had been on there maybe 4, even 5 years, and whilst it was still decent, especially the back of it, I wanted to change it because we're coming up for the winter season now, being mid-November, and it goes for a hard time obviously with congers, all those big cod we're going to catch, maybe, but also it's going to be the start of the wrecking again, and it all will find that line out if it's not absolutely right. False economy not changing line, it really is. I know it's expensive, but it's well worth doing it. You do not want to lose a fish of a lifetime at the side of the boat, which is exactly what happened to a friend of mine, or a good friend of mine, and the guy with him's had more than one £30 cod, and he reckoned it was over 30, and he got it near the side of the boat, and the line just parted. That is not what you want to happen. It'd be devastating, wouldn't you, really? So anyway, speaking of wrecking, obviously you don't have to just wreck in the winter, you can do it in the summer. And we've just had the summer wrecking season. Did okay, actually. Did all right. You don't have to use the wire booms. You can use other rigs. One of them, I think I showed you last time. One of them's going to be this arrangement. So imagine I've attached that, like so. One of these. They just throw that up tight as you're heading towards the wreck. You throw it towards the wreck, and then you just literally work that up, drop it down, work it back. Same as you would normally. Incidentally, again, speaking of false economy, this lead head is going in the melting bin because that hook has had it. You could put a point on there. Why would you bother? Why would you want to really risk losing a good fish just for the sake of not changing the hook and being lazy? Another few rigs you can use. This is going to date me. All manner of weird and wonderfuls. Jelly worms, shads, twin tails, all sorts here. Bought these, I believe, off of Roger Bazan. That's how long ago that was. And they work, they still work. You rig those up with a lead head again, and they do work. Now, as I say, if you don't want to use booms, which can tangle, I'm not going to lie, they can, and it can become very irritating. You lose fish after fish, or drift after drift, I should have said, because you're tying up a new trace. You don't have to use booms, you can use a Portland rig. Now, for those that don't know, Portland rig, there you go, it's just a weight. This is from the bottom up. A weight, a swivel, You then have 2 beads trapping another swivel between that. Obviously there's your swivel that attaches to your line, so from the top you go like that. There you go, there's the bottom swivel, and you've got these 2 beads just trapping a swivel, so that can spin around, and there will be your lure on the end. I haven't tied these up for using, I've just tied them up to show you. Lengths, whatever you want really. I tend to just use, I don't know, what's that, 10 inches to the first swivel. I don't know, 45 centimetres. I've gone from imperial to metric there, that's my age. But anyway, about 45 centimetres to the top swivel, and as always I use a span, generally 6 foot to the lure, and you can use that, works well. And you might not get so many tangles on that Portland rig, certainly worth thinking about. The other thing is over slack water. What do you use over slack water? We can use a bit of bait if you want, maybe tease something off, or you can use one of these. Now these slow jigs can be deadly, really good. I will hold it the correct way up. You might think that's how it's tied to the line. No, it's tied to the line there. And what happens is, what I do, I drop that down to the wreck. As soon as I feel it hit the bottom, I'll do a quick turn or two, and then you lift that rod tip right up and you just let that come back down. And what it does, it mimics a fish in distress, like that, as it comes down. So you're lifting it up as it's coming back down, and that can get hit for fun. It really can. I've had some good fish on there when it's been slow with the other techniques. Even bait, you know, you get the little tiny pout and little fish pecking the bait to death. The slow jig, there's something that in fish that they want to hit another fish in distress, and that's what that mimics. If those hooks get a little bit blunt, you can buy a new lot to put on, and it's worth doing that. You know, they're not very expensive, and once they start to get a little bit blunt, just take them off the split ring there, put a new set on. The slow jig can be very, very effective. As I mentioned, tangles can be awful when you're wrecking. Sometimes those fish are only biting on a particular stage of tide, so you don't want too many tangles, or you're wasting that time tying new rigs up. These I've found, now this is weightless basically, can be very good at that time. If you've had enough of it, now they come in different sizes, this is only a small one, but what happens here is that hook comes out, you thread your line down through the hole there in its nose, out the other side, you tie the line to the hook, and then the hook goes back, if I can find the hole, which is there, inside the lure, and you push it out like so. Now because that's unweighted, literally the only weight on that is the weight of the lure and the hook, which is negligible, you don't get as many tangles. So you can work that the same on a normal wire boom, but you get very few tangles with those, and they can be really effective. What I've found is I've had all sorts. I've had other things on these. I've had red gurnard, tub gurnard, bream, scad, pollock obviously, and bass. Bass really like them. Very, very effective for bass actually, these. So yeah, just another lure to use, and you'll get less tangles with that one. I've come in the front room because it got a bit noisy out of the kitchen there. There was a bit of rain hitting the patio door, making a lot of noise. Very Christmassy in here, isn't it? Look, crikey. Looks like Willy Wonka's been in here. Anyhow, what I'll do is I shall load up a few clips in a minute. Just odd bits and pieces that we filmed while we were wrecking back in the summer. So if I can find any nice ones to tag on the end of this film, I will do. So yeah, it was just a little film here to show you that how I spool the reels. A few other little techniques for wrecking. A few other things you can use. Hopefully they're useful to you. And yeah, it'd be nice to have a good wrecking season. There's a 20-pound pollock out there. Right, we're on the first wreck. We've had maybe a dozen drifts, and we've had 2 smaller pollock. This one feels slightly better, and I swapped my lure over to a rhubarb and custard 6-inch one. I was using a pink one, and I did have 1 small pollock on it. Tim, who's kindly holding the camera there, he caught that a slightly bigger one on a rhubarb and custard, but this fish feels slightly better, and it certainly had a few dives. And as you can see, it's a stunning day, absolutely stunning day. What a beautiful setting. And hopefully I'll show you this fish if he doesn't come off, because it's not guaranteed just because you've hooked them. Here we go, and here comes, and that looks like a reasonable fish to me. Do you know what, I'm going to risk it and lift it in. That is a very nice fish actually, boys. Let's have a risk here and get him up. Oh yes please. He will do.
Went off, won't he?
No, it's not off, it's still filming. Just hold it so if you think you're holding it straight, that's it, that's perfect. And there you go, gentlemen and ladies. How about that? How about that? Lovely. Little down his chops there. That'll do, won't it? A few more of them. Very, very nice indeed. We came back to the first wreck after hitting another 2, and boy are we glad we did, because that is a chunking back pollock for Tim. PB?
Yeah, it should be.
Yeah, that will be. We'll measure him when we get back and weigh him up, but whoa.
Good, lovely condition.
Let's get back round. Well, there you go, everybody. Over slack water, when the fishing goes quiet, get yourself one of them out. Slow jig, learn how to use it. And how about him? He'll do, won't he? And we'll get a couple more.